I was lucky enough to see Chicago Bulls live.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was back in the day. I was in Chicago. We saw them live. It was just kind of amazing. And Jordan hit a 3 to push it into overtime. And most people that aren't from basketball would probably think that Jordan shoots 80%, 90%. But as a career figure from, the 2-point space, he's probably a 40% shooter. And I think people are really surprised when I say that. Probably, arguably, one of the best players in the world, 40%. Now, in basketball, that's amazing, the consistency. In life, isn't that a great kind of tell-all about the persistence it takes to be that good when you should, when basketball is kind of a skill that you really at your best, you're still hitting it 40% of the time. The amount of hustle that you have to kind of pick yourself up when 60% of the time it bricks it on the rim. As a player, I can say that. I wasn't 40%, I can tell you right now. I was the smallest.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Push Podcast. This is the podcast where we explore the real stories behind what makes entrepreneurs and business owners the successes they are today. I am Jack Ferguson, a small business growth strategist, and I will be your host. I believe the best way to learn and be inspired is to listen to the experiences and stories of those you respect. They're real experiences, their real story, warts and all. Honest storytelling is what this is all about. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you are listening to this. Hello and welcome to episode 3, season 2 of the Push Podcast. Today's guest is Louise Flynn, co-founder of BrightCanvas and founder of Rulu. In this episode, we cover how Louise built a consulting business and what roadblocks she came across while doing so. An established professional skilled in building Saas companies, she speaks about what she had to learn and who she had to become to now build a consulting business. It was very interesting to hear from Louise how she draws metaphors between basketball and business and how her basketball mind has helped her career. Her love for Sass, so SaaS, software as a service, and the Sass, SaaS, in discussing her story make for a fascinating listen. We talk about why marketing plans are dead. We compete for who is the worst digital marketer in Brisbane out of the two of us, and talk technology businesses through and through. I asked Louise onto the podcast because she is so open and knowledgeable. She tells a great story and is just good fun to be around, so I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Let's get started. All right, so today we're here with the founder of Rulu Marketing, a marketing consultancy for SaaS companies, and the founder of BrightCanvas, or the co-founder, should I say, which is a marketing program for SMEs. Louise Flynn, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited that you get to share. You're the first person to share my new venture.
Nice.
BrightCanvases, which is really an amazing opportunity to help local entrepreneurs with their marketing. So, yes, I'm excited to be here.
Sounds good. Well, why don't we start there? What is it?
Well, BrightCanvas was... the origin story is really over a glass of wine with Nicole Sterling from Sterling Marketing. We're both local marketers, and we go to so many events and hear so many great stories of people with business ideas, and they're just not quite able to access marketing early enough in their journey. And we felt like we had something to offer them, but we were probably a little bit too expensive. So we kind of collaborated and came up with a program that just allows them to leverage their smarts, because we believe, particularly early in a business, you're probably your best marketer. Mm-hmm. So you just need a little bit of an education about how to be a marketer. And that allows you and empowers you to kind of grow your marketing and bring other people in to get it done for you, but you can own it and you really know what you want. So we had our first client start today, and it's just so amazing to see all those kind of wow moments. So I'm looking forward to seeing so many more. Yeah, awesome. Well done. Definitely can relate to the whole, when a business is young, getting a internal marketer in. Often you need the scale to be able to do that, right? Absolutely. And, marketing's not the only discipline. Obviously product, I'm a co-organiser of Product Tank and a big believer in product as well. We don't see product people early enough, or HR for that matter. But those three disciplines, I think what stops people is that they tend to think they're a headcount. So being able to find that right level of advice to put you on the right track. And in our case, we really think the founder or the founding group are their best marketer at that point. So really just allowing them to give them the framework to build the decisions about what they do with their marketing is going to be so impactful. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yes, sure. And they can get you in and they don't have to pay for you for, years on end. And with your, an expert like yourself, they can just...
Look, and when they're big enough, they can come back and be a Rulu client.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. And you also claim to be the worst digital marketer in digital marketing in Brisbane, which was quite interesting to me because I think that's actually me, but I'm willing to listen to why it's you.
Oh, it's definitely me. It's like saying I'm the worst vegetarian in a restaurant for a steakhouse. I love digital, but I very rarely recommend it as the first port of call for my clients because I have, for Rulu's client base, they're all fantastic B2B Saas businesses or software as a service or marketplaces, and there's a lot more things to do before digital. There's a lot of discipline you need for digital, and I guess digital's moved past the point of a shiny object now. And it has a really important part, but you really want as a marketer to have the whole bag of tricks and assess them independently. And it doesn't matter what you can do or what someone else can do. You want to treat digital marketing as something that has a fit within the business. So I've certainly seen very big digital operations and spent a lot of money in digital marketing. And then I've come back and spent what felt like $5 at a time in digital, test and learn. And what I've really found is that that's where it best lives. Like every other marketing, start at the beginning, test and learn. As it kind of scales or as you get great results, you bring it into what you do every day. But until it really shows you results, you treat it like everything else. So, yes, my clients constantly say to me, right, so when's our first digital campaign going to be built? And I said, well, we've got a few other places where I think we've got some growth, but we're going to do it. Just not yet.
Right.
Not yet.
Okay, and so you're saying like you see a lot of people will treat it as somewhat of a silver bullet?
Oh, it's the absolute silver bullet. The reality is there's so much more business to build around digital lead generation. And that's because I've seen, I existed before Sass. I existed in the world of perpetual software, which dates me a little bit. And they were starting to really touch on digital lead generation very early in the piece. But they balanced it with an older style of selling, the more traditional marketing, and that it's only ever rolled into their program as it's been efficient. So, and I think also if you're looking for digital to be a solution, that silver bullet, you consider it a hammer and everything a nail. And the reality is that there's some great examples in software of how digital definitely had a role in growing a business, but it was partnerships, it was integrations, it was relationships with trade associations. It was a great sales process that really leveled those businesses up, less about paying for every new customer, which no one can afford.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and how it fits into the whole mix of, how you're going to grow to the next level, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Really interesting. I definitely can relate to that for sure. Obviously, I've been in marketing myself for a while and think that, the amount of times you kind of... I think marketing's easy to blame too, It's often the thing that, someone will go, oh, it's the marketing at fault, I don't like working with people when I don't really know the whole business model anymore, just because it's, I don't like getting involved when Often it's a model. Sometimes it's a model anyway, and
coming from the person who built a growth marketing consultancy for B2B SaaS, and is now probably B2B niche SaaS. So people that have a very small addressable market or a very small target market, they're my people. And I guess we'll touch on that a bit later, but it is worth, I think you if you say that marketing is about helping build a business, when I first started in marketing over 20 years ago, I think genuinely we were a cost centre.
Okay.
But now, particularly in newer business models, we are a revenue generator, and businesses really rely on us to build a sustainable business model. But to do that, you need to understand the model and you need to know what good is. And that helps you not get too sucked into vanity metrics like Facebook followers, Facebook likes, I should say, and be very clear about what a win is. So, for software, some of the software programs, a win is 12 months after someone signed up.
Yeah, right.
So you have to be a bit patient.
Yes, makes sense. And you say as well that marketing plans are somewhat dead, you think? Like it's more a series of gambles is the way you described it.
Absolutely.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Oh, gosh. So I think probably up until about 10 years ago, I think there was still this once a year process where you would turn up to the boardroom with your large 20-page document that had all the deep insights and SWOT analysis and all those sorts of things, and you laid out the business for the next 12 months. And those things just don't exist anymore. And there's really good reason for that. Businesses are just so fast. They move so fast. I think 2020 has proven the environment around them moves so quickly. So planning that far ahead in the sort of structure that gives you permission to go, no, this is what we're doing and we're not doing anything else, really is something that can hold a business back, particularly when it's really hard to know what good is until you give it a go.
Yeah.
So rather than the old 20-page document, the idea that a marketing plan isn't a singular thing. It's those 2 to 3 gambles, figuring out what your budget and your resources are, but I've got the ability to take 2 or 3 gambles. And those gambles are smart gambles. Those gambles give me things that I can use as resources if it doesn't work out. But if I get a win, now I know how to stoke a flame. I've seen the flame and now I know where to put a little bit of money. Presto, now we've got something. And we can put that into our regular marketing operation. But for the most part, it is about those gambles because so many people, particularly in the SaaS space, are doing things that haven't been done before, constantly. So, as I said, you don't know what good is until you give it a go. And if you have a big structured plan, well, you're not going to gamble as much.
Yeah.
You're going to be thinking too much about, we're going to do this every day. Well, actually, no. Marketers can be entrepreneurs. You can be someone who makes the bet with the sales team, the product team, the founder, yourself can make that gamble and say, you know what, our next number is going to come from a gamble in this industry or a gamble, here. And really kind of, and I think that also is really helpful for a product in flux or under growth, because instead of trying to sell to everyone and try to be great, how about you just be great to the people that you are great for, and then take a gamble with the people that you're only a solid 5 out of 10 and see how you go with them and kind of reduce the promise a little bit so that reduce expectations and bring them onto the platform and really guide them and build that market. So, yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about the gambles. I watched way too much World Series of Poker. I think that's why I keep on saying it's a gamble.
I think it's such a good way of looking at it. I just one thing for me was I don't like long-term plans locking you in with what you're going to do. But also one thing that always occurred to me is if you lock yourself in, you don't know what your competitors are going to do either. So if you're locked into something for this long period of time just cause, you can't pivot, like if you need that 12-month tick of approval from the board or whatever it is that you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
you can better do something similar 3 months before you're planning to do it.
Yes.
I think that leaves you dead in the water too.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you take nothing from the experience. Peter Laurie, who's a local entrepreneur in residence over at River City Labs, talks about this idea of building capability. With every test, with every gamble you make, you learn something. And maybe it's not to do it ever again, but it may be that you develop certain assets in your marketing, certain capabilities, or you brought a new element to your tech stack or something else that you can keep in your business. So you build the capabilities. And yeah, there's just so many learnings to make. So it makes it more dynamic and feels, I think to some people feels a bit messy, but it's really just about pushing marketers to be entrepreneurs, to be commercially focused, because the businesses need it. They need people to build brand for them, but more importantly, that needs to be focused within the business objectives. And we've now got some of the best business models where marketers can really be the difference between success and failure.
Yeah, right. Fascinating stuff. Let's go back to where it all started. I'm really interested in where your journey as a marketer began. Where was that?
Oh gosh, well, after 2 years of primary school teaching, actually.
Oh, really?
2 years of studying primary school teaching, then realised I probably swore too much.
Still do.
I still do. Yeah, far too much. So I moved over into the business school. I was doing accounting and marketing, and I think it was marketing just kind of grabbed me because of the idea that I've always been engaged by the ideas of others. I've always been interested in the story of this company. And this is probably what still drives me 20 years later, is having conversations with entrepreneurs and them telling me their amazing stories. And now I'm a startup founder, technically, I think. And I'm still building an entire business where I just get to spend time hearing people's stories. So my marketing degree completed, I was all complete and ready to go. And I did my only B2C job in my entire life, my only business to consumer job, working for Goldpin AMF in bowling. And it was amazing. And it was quite shocking because when you're in university, it's all a project. It's not real. But when you go into the real world and you meet great franchise owners and when you do something and it works or it doesn't work, you really start going, okay, no, this is important. This is real. This is not an assignment that I get graded on. But that was really just the preparation for the move to London. And I somehow blagged my way into a marketing consultancy, a little marketing consultancy in Southwark, who became a little bit bigger marketing consultancy in Wimbledon during my time. And I blagged my way in as a telemarketer because I'd done telemarketing for 3 years. I was really good at database marketing. And I did their telemarketing and I built telemarketing for their clients and built their databases. And then the head of marketing decided that he was not interested in doing that anymore. So I talked my way into the head of marketing at a little London B2B marketing consultancy. And it was great. There was a bunch of ragtag backpackers all working, Australians, Kiwis, South Africans. And again, we were just working crazy hours, loving it, and meeting all these great little small business owners. And I saw B2B at its best and went, I don't know about consumers anymore. I just want business, But it was haberdashery. It was IT. There was kebabs. There was a kebab reseller.
Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I know my kebabs particularly well, other than to be a consumer of them. But I can give you advice on your haberdashery, whether you want a curtain tie back or trimmings on those curtains.
Right.
I've still got some. Unfortunately, when you market as broadly as I do, I have so many small pockets of strange knowledge. I can't even tell you.
Is it a bad thing though?
Oh, no. It's so much fun to be able to talk heavy haulage and mobile cranes, and then a linear low density polyethylene rotational molding powder, and now all I talk is Sass, and and all the different amazing ways that software can help other businesses. So it can be right from very kind of broad software that people know, like e-commerce, through to event management software. Just so many different, just so many strange facts that sit up in my mind, I think. And occasionally I think they might be handy. They might just pop up once in a while. Even being a basketball coach is quite handy once in a while as well. Well, when I was a basketball coach.
Is that when you did that, around that time, or?
Before I left, I was a basketball coach. Yeah, I grew up in netball, switched to basketball. Basketball's such a great learning. It's one of the best sports, along with football or soccer, in the strategy of the game, and it's actually great for business, because there's probably two big takeaways that I always talk about when I talk about basketball, which is, in basketball, you can't stop everything from happening. So if you're a defender, you can't stop this person from doing everything, but you can stop them doing what they're really good at. So if he's a right-handed player dribbling with his right hand, shooting with the right hand, if I put pressure on him to go left, that's the best I could do, and that's how I'm going to make change. So you learn from basketball how small changes that you can make actually can make a difference. And probably the other thing, I was actually just reading before I got in here, because Michael Jordan's such an amazing kind of figurehead, LeBron James now, but I was lucky enough to see Chicago Bulls live.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was back in the day. I was in Chicago. We saw them live. It was just kind of amazing. And Jordan hit a 3 to push it into overtime. And most people that aren't from basketball would probably think that Jordan shoots 80%, 90%. But as a career figure from, from the 2-point space, he's probably a 40% shooter. And I think people are really surprised when I say that. Probably, arguably, one of the best players in the world. 40%. Now, in basketball, that's amazing, the consistency. In life, isn't that a great kind of tell-all about the persistence it takes to be that good when you should, when basketball is kind of a skill that you really, at your best, you're still hitting it 40% of the time. The amount of hustle that you have to kind of pick yourself up when 60% of the time it bricks it on the rim. As a player, I can say that. I wasn't 40%, I could tell you right now. I was the smallest power forward. And I always find it so funny to talk to people about basketball, because obviously we're in a podcast, so the push community are thinking, oh, well, she must, for people who don't know me, they probably think, oh, well, she's probably a 6-foot, svelte kind of athlete. No, I've always been about 5'7", if I could bribe someone to put that on my license. Pretty curvy, pretty good defender, great post player. Yeah, but not your atypical basketball kind of. I was more basketball mind than I was, a basketball player. But I did that before I left for London, and obviously had this amazing journey in London, and then really found at the end of the 2 years that I was yearning to come home. I'd never marketed at home in Australia. I thought, oh, fantastic. I travelled for 6 weeks on the way home, got off the plane and realised that I had literally no money. I'd burnt it all the way through. But I was lucky enough to get my first role, and I had quite a career in industrial marketing for a while before my MBA. Mm-hmm. And then the MBA was the trigger to say, no, it's time for you to get into technology.
Okay. So when you came back to Australia, where'd you move?
Always in Brisbane.
Always in Brisbane.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, always on the south side as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting right down to, should I start a war with the community? I'm sure there's going to be posts about south side, north side battles. There is none. It's just I've always lived. I think the title of my book will be My Life Off Logan Road, because I think I kind of I grew up around the Macrobat area, Holland Park, went to school at Upper Mount Gravatt, came back and lived around Stones Corner and Cooper. It was just Logan Road's the centre of my life. So, yeah, it's outside. So I came back to Brisbane. That's that's the long answer.
Right, okay, cool. So, and you must have been here for a while before you started your MBA though?
Yeah, I did my MBA a little bit younger, and I think that's an interesting conversation that I have with people now. I did my MBA before I was 30. I was coming back, and what gravitated towards, what kind of pushed me towards the MBA a bit earlier than some, is that I knew that marketing by itself, that understanding of the business model is really fundamental. So I felt like I was missing tools of the trade. And I'm really lucky I did it. QT, which have been so amazing to me. I went and did their MBA. I spoke to their EMBA class this year on B2B marketing briefly. And, I look at where that program's going, and I just love the fact that they're just bringing so many people in. But I took a lot from it. Mm. And part of it was just the confidence to be able to talk to people and really push back and say, you know what, marketing, if you let it, has the potential to be amazing for you. And it empowered me to move out of industrial marketing and actually quit a job. Right. And say, no, I'm going to look for another job, and it's going to be in technology, and I'm going to be a technology marketer. I didn't know what that was going to be. Something with computers. That's what it was going to be. I was going to make that switch right now with my MBA in my hand.
Anything in particular bring on that decision to move into technology?
I think it was just the prevailing wind.
Okay.
I just felt like there was something that was speaking to me in terms of the big brands at the time, and thinking, no, I think this is where the world's going to go. And maybe it was just sheer luck. Maybe it was just sheer luck of going, no, I think I need to be in technology now. I think I need to do something with computers. They seem to be the next big thing. I'm sure that's exactly how I thought about it as the little light popped off in my head, and thought, you know what, I've got to make this gamble now when I'm young and silly enough to do it and happy enough to eat kind of, cheap spaghetti or bread, toast with jam on it, to take the gamble and go, I've got my MBA now. I just need to find my new space. So off I went.
Cool. And so how long did the MBA take?
Look, it only took, I think I did it in two years, maybe 3. We had we ran through the year, so three blocks through the year. And that's actually where I finally got to study B2B marketing. They brought a lecturer out for the summer, which mustn't have been all that hard. He was an English lecturer coming out for the Australian summer, and he did B2B class with us. And I was like, oh, is this what this is called that I like? Okay, now I get it. And we really kind of pulled apart what was marketing that we'd been taught, which was really consumer focused, and really pulled it apart into how businesses talk to each other and how different people are when they're making a decision on behalf of their business. How some of the things stay the same. I'm still interested in my own, well-being or my own time savings, but then I've got to think about the business I work for. And that was a really complex dynamic that I think I just had seen so much of it, but now I really understood the theory of it. I went, no, this is where I live. Technology company, B2B, let's figure this out. Let's make it happen, Louise. So,
no, that's a good job.
Yeah.
So what was the first job in technology?
Well, it's an interesting divergence for someone who's I would consider a lead generation marketer, or someone who likes to take someone who likes something and make them use it. Mm-hmm. I spent 5 years working for APNIC here in Brisbane, and APNIC is the not-for-profit. It's one of 5 registries that allocate IP addresses around the world. So technically, I was in internet governance.
Yeah, right.
For 5 years, and I got to travel. I've probably travelled just under 50 countries in my life, probably about 20 or 30 of them while I was working at APNIC. I got to meet so many amazing people who build all the things we don't see about the internet, all the things we take for granted, like when we type a domain in and it resolves and brings a page up and you think, oh, well, that just happens because it happens. Well, no, it happens because there's a network of root servers around the world who do that. And there's a real... I got to see what was the origins of the internet, I guess. So I was already interested in technology, and it made me more interested in technology that was very kind of, I wouldn't say obscure, but very specific technology. So there's plenty of technology that's very broad, very consumer focused, but the more you work within a community and you hear about the technologies that enable them, the more you get so engaged and you become a marketer that lives within the community rather than marketing at the community. So I had to encourage people to become members. I had to encourage people to do certain things, whether it's the transition to IPv6, which is the next kind of set of numbers that they can choose from. I had to encourage them to sponsor our events. I had to encourage them to support our grants program so that we could build those capabilities around the Asia Pacific. So I had a real mission. And I wonder if I've actually also made that a minimum for my next roles, which sounds a bit funny when you talk about B2B software, but if you don't have a mission, if you don't feel like you're helping someone, then it is just kind of code, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah. So I worked there for 5 years, and then I was lucky enough because I understood the community, so all the technical associations and groups and things like that. I was recruited by an American company who's a vendor in the kind of next layer up in the internet, in network systems and database monitoring. And then I got to get back to lead generation, which I've got to say, there's nothing better than getting someone who's interested to use your product. Like and helping people, because it's the hardest thing, but being able to do that is so great for someone to get a look at the product and really go, yeah, this is what I want to do. Yeah. So I moved on to it. Yeah. So big American software company, and it was like pulling the kind of curtain back in the Wizard of Oz, because I was one of over 100 marketers.
Yeah, right.
SolarWinds has now IPO'd the second time. So at the time, I was one of 100 and something marketers. They had all these different divisions, and I was the APAC division for corporate communications and did a bit of lead generation as well. And I just got to see what big tech looks like. And I think when you're working in much smaller businesses, it's actually really interesting to have seen much further into the future. Because I think in hindsight, there were things that they had to do because they hadn't been able to see ahead. Certainly some marketing technology decisions came very late. But also you just learn how to build a culture as well. And I also probably learned that I really enjoyed working with salesmen. So the things, the environments that I really love working with is the fact that marketing and sales and even product really engage with each other. If we're too far apart from each other, that doesn't work for me. We need to kind of be in the trenches together. So marketing can't live over in the corner. We kind of need to be in the mix. That's what I like.
Right. Well, you can't be totally separate. I mean, you can only market as good as the product is, really.
Oh, you'd be surprised. Build the vision. Build the vision. No, for good software marketing, you sell what you have. You make a promise and you live up to it, and you try not to overpromise, because they don't stick around with the software.
Yeah.
Or what we call contract kind of prisoners. So people that are only on the software because they signed a 2-year deal. That's not fun.
Yeah.
No one wants that. They're not going to recommend you. They're probably going to tell everyone that they can not to get trapped in the same contract that you're in. So how about we just build the promise of the brand and the sales and the marketing and the product so that we can deliver it. And then we can also change that promise when things get, when we have more of, more interesting products with new features and those sorts of things. But I'm a big fan of scaling your promise to the product that you have.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Yeah, so I moved on from SolarWinds, worked for their German competitor, who are probably the most amazing, nice people, and it's seriously the cheapest, best value software on the planet. PRTG Network Monitor. If you are into monitoring networks and systems, it's one of the best tools, and that's why I think they were just amazing people. But it was a really interesting chance meeting with a recruiter here in Brisbane that said to me, would you meet with my client? I said, well, I'm pretty happy where I am, but, I've always wanted to work for a Brisbane company in marketing. All right, we'll have a little talk. And it was a totally sliding doors moment. It was it was where, things completely changed for me.
Right, okay. So you go into that first meeting with this new potential employer and...
So I went to, so this is Nido e-commerce, so I won't bury the lead on that. So I walked into Nido e-commerce and I met with Jason Titman, who, continues to be a really supportive investor of people with good ideas around Brisbane. I know that he's recently stepped back from Nido because he's off to find the next kind of business that he can support. And I talked to him a lot about my software experience and what I'd learned and what I thought they needed in terms of marketing. But it was more of a chat. It was more of a casual chat. It was, this is what I've learned. This is what I've seen. This is probably what you need. And look, I completely appreciate you can't find it because a lot of software marketing in Australia is done in Sydney and Melbourne. So most of the big American companies hired their marketers in Sydney and Melbourne, and they were probably the skills that a software company needed, us people from back in the days of software that you downloaded. We were closest to the model that they had. And then he said, you know what, you should drop back in and see Ryan. I said, look, I'm going to Adelaide tomorrow. Okay, look, I can see you in the morning, and then I've really got to hit the airport. I'm going to bring my bags with me. I've got my mother in the cafe with the bags, and I drop up and see Ryan, and I pull out my famous double funnel diagram and say to him, this is kind of what I think you need. Mm-hmm. You need someone who kind of understands the acquisition funnel, the conversion points, and here I am gibbering through my Sass metric, my love of Sass gibberish. But you also kind of, you kind of need marketing that attracts the right type of people. So, yeah. And I guess there was a real appreciation, hopefully I extended an empathy that said that I really understood, because I'd seen it before, how hard software as a service is as a business model, because you are making a promise and you are taking a gamble and you get paid back 6 months later, 12 months later. And you've got a lot of expectations to grow very quickly, and there's not a lot of examples. There's not a lot of people that have tread in the same sort of region. So hopefully the chat went well. And I arrived in Adelaide and I got a message saying, would you work with them? I said, these people are really passionate about what they're doing for people who are trying to make great products and get them in someone's hands. The stories they're telling me about the people they're trying to help. Yeah, okay, I can do that.
And I'll just clarify that Ryan was the CEO, was he? Yeah.
Ryan Murtagh is still the CEO of Nido. And I think for anyone in Brisbane or Australia, I think Ryan's genuinely someone who absolutely understands the business model. I think I understood the business model to some extent, but the kind of the way he lives it. And I think for anyone who genuinely loves software as a service, or SaaS, like I do, he's someone that you want to have in your radar. He's probably still one of the best, someone who lives what great SaaS is, really understands the model, understands what wins are. And I think I understood the theory of it, and I'd lived it to some extent. But being at Neato really meant living it, really meant making a promise, helping someone with the software, and really finding the right fit, making sure that the software was the right fit for the person. It was a really great experience, and I think at the end of the experience, we both left having given each other something. So I hoped, my objective was that I just wanted to bring a stability to the marketing. So I wanted to build something that lasted, because I was their first senior marketer, and they'd done so many different things. And as I said, marketing's very noisy, the temptation to do a lot of things. To be able to focus and to do one thing well and measure it and assess it, I think hopefully still is ingrained in what they do. It's a lot easier to build a business when you understand the demand. You can create consistent demand. Certainly makes your salespeople a lot happier too when they're getting 5 leads a day, not 1 lead, 2 leads, 10 leads.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we'd all like 10 leads, it's very hard to plan a sales operation from there. But with him and with Liz Hardy, who was the head of product there, I really got into the nuance of SaaS, of the complexity, of the challenge it is not only to find the right people, to sell to them in the right amount of time, at the right price point, but get people to touch the software and use it in their everyday, which is the real challenge of software. A great software marketing and great software businesses, and then come back and ask them to renew. Or, more importantly, make them so happy they're prepared to talk to you. And I guess if anyone goes and has a look at netohq.com, you'll see marketing that is pure community marketing. It is all about the people Neto's helped and a lot less about Neto. And that was another lesson as well that I probably had seen beforehand, but, you know, those were great takeaways for me.
And so this is I'm assuming high growth company that you're working for. What's the first month like?
Well, they give you a number. There's no, look, we'll ease you in, we'll let you get a lay of the land, and then eventually we'll show you the targets. No, first day, here's the targets. Salesman's in the business before me, so he's like, we need to catch up. We need to talk about why I'm getting no leads and some leads, and, you know, my team had been driven crazy. Ironically, one of the best, I've got to say, Tony Pearson, who was ex-Telstra at the time, probably such a good influence for that sales operation too, because he was someone who'd been in sales for so long that he was always about pushing out of the boundaries, trying to find the sales where we could while we built the digital lead generation program. A really interesting time at Neto. But I think the learning I took from Neto, which was the hardest one, was that software is actually not one discipline. Okay. Software marketing is not one discipline. And Neto is it is a different type of software than what I'm good at. So while I still think I'm effective and I'm engaging, when you're in those high growth businesses where you're looking for the great the holy grail hockey stick that you can put in front of someone to give you some money, you, like every single other person in the business, has to be doing what you love and what you're absolutely a 10 out of 10 at all the time. Mm-hmm. You absolutely have to be playing to your strengths. And a lot of my skills sat a little bit further beyond where they were.
What do you mean by that? Like down the funnel more? Or
no, as they matured.
Oh, okay.
So I tend to work with scale-ups now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So little things like certainly there was a push to kind of, big digital lead generation focus and some amazing partnerships. But certainly the work I do with businesses now, a little bit smaller in terms of their target markets too. So it's a lot more about understanding smaller markets rather than every single person who's ever want to sell a product online, if I can get that out. So I was leaving a few things on the table, and I thought, it was in the reflection after my time at Nido, I think that's what really stopped me from taking a very similar job, of which there was a number of interviews and flights to different cities and discussions about being the head of marketing at insert next amazing, Sass startup. And every time I just found something wrong, and it was nothing wrong with them. It was that I knew that, again, these models require so much enthusiasm and so much of you that why not be doing what you're good at and what you do very well and what you're comfortable and enthusiastic at all the time. So I had to go and find that. It was back to kind of post-MBA where I was looking for my first gig in technology, but now I was looking for a job in a software that was a bit different. Okay, all right, well, I'll put that in the back of my mind and we'll figure that out.
And what about how you found that environment of this high growth early stage? Like, was it something that, because I think some people, enjoy it and thrive off the actual environment itself, and some people don't like it very much. Aside from your skills, like, how did you actually respond to that?
Yeah, well, I had probably been, SolarWinds was doing 40% year on year, even at $500 million. So I was used to working a lot of hours. I was used to running a marathon, not walking or jogging a marathon. I was used to running a marathon, and that worked for me because I've always seen work and life as kind of a balance, and I'm happy to kind of concede to work. If work's great, then I'm great. And my friends know that as well. But there's different, I think you still, when you're in the trenches with people, you still need to find your people. And I could certainly see why some high growth cultures are too much for people. It's unrelenting. You have to have it's your ability to kind of recover. You get to the end of the month and all you've got is, I've still got a photo with Dom Liss, who was the head of sales then, and we were celebrating Nido's best month. And then a few hours later, we were just about to start the new month and wipe the board clean. Yeah. So you have to build some resilience. But, I think that's actually a really important consideration for people jumping on the startup train, particularly early stage startups. That not everyone's built for that, and that's okay, because there's actually a lot of opportunity to grow businesses that are a bit bigger and bigger again. You can be what I think we call intrapreneurs, which I've
heard of that one, yeah.
Yeah, or just people that are innovative and entrepreneurial within a business. But startups do give you a lot of skills that you take away. They give you a pace, they give you an understanding, and they also give you permission to kind of only do what's important because there's only you. So you do get better at saying, look, when we're bigger, we'll do that. Or, you know what, push it. Let's give this a crack and see if we can make it work. So there were so many takeaways. But, yeah, the culture is kind of take it or leave it a little bit.
Okay. But it was good for you. That was your environment.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure I played on the ping pong tables all that much, but or rode on the scooter track. I've got to say, which was probably the most fascinating part of the Nido experience back in the office back then was. But there was also a lot of focus on supporting charities and things like that, which I thought was such a great kind of, such a great culture to kind of build people that, build a team that gives back as well.
Okay. Really interesting. Really interesting. I love that point about the recovery, because that can, working with that intensity, right? If you're working with that intensity and then, all of a sudden, I know I've been in situations where I've tried to spend a weekend recovering and it's sort of just enough. And then, a couple of months later, I can't recover in the weekend anymore. It's, I don't think I'm perfectly suited to that type of thing. So it's just interesting to hear you mention the recovery because, probably for me, that's probably the hardest part of that. I'm an intense person, but it has its limits.
Well, it's like, if I'm to go back to basketball again, and I'll use LeBron James so that I don't date myself, anyone can play one-on-one against LeBron James. Anyone. It's just how long you last. It's how long you last. For me, I'd last maybe the first dribble and it'd be all over Red Rover. And there'd be other players that could play him, probably 2 or 3 minutes and hold their own. But it's that resilience that you need to have. And you really need to find the right place for yourself because then resilience comes a lot more naturally. When you don't get a win in marketing, you get your wins and then you have your months where you just thought, oh my gosh, oh dear, not a single thing went right. Crap. Not one of these gambles paid off. You've got to be able to bounce back and go, yep, okay, I'll pick this back up again and off I'll go.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so you decide it's time to move on from Nido, and you're talking to some other companies, but it's not quite doing it for you. What's going through the mind at this stage? Yeah,
so I'd finished at Nido, and then I was off to find the other work, and something just kept on stopping me. I got a lot of fantastic trips to meet people. It was quite a vanity exercise. But nothing seemed to fall into place. And I think a few people in my life are going, I thought this was going to be an easy transition into your next big venture. And I said to myself, no, I think I'm going to make the same mistake if I say any yeses. And ironically, the same recruiter who put me into Nito had moved on by then into a coaching career, Petra's Inc., and she'd said to me, you could probably be a consultant, Louise. You could probably think about that. I said, oh, okay. I'll put it in the heart. I'll have a think about it. But I don't really know consultants and I don't know how to be one. And I'm not sure if I know enough to really be a consultant. So I'll start my business, but I'll just pick up some contracts and I'll, see if I can't turn them into a job. I was still very much looking for a job, thinking that I wanted to be part of something and that was the only way I could be it. But the more I started working with more people and getting closer to the right type of atmosphere, the more I also thought, oh, actually, I could probably do more here if I wasn't employed by them. Because I found, for all the good of working for someone and be a part of their team and all the other benefits that come outside of just your day-to-day, there were so many distractions. And so consulting kind of kept on popping up. And for 2 years, I was such a pretend consultant. I'd say I was a consultant, but I was working in contracts and I'd had set blocks of work. But it wasn't until 2019 that I went, right, I can do this, and it just fell into place. And I think since then, I've really been figuring out what I need to be to find. I found my people. I know what sort of businesses. I can clearly articulate that I'm my best with people that have B2B software in a slight. They're probably scale ups. So someone that really knows who they are, and they're looking. That's the people I can make the most impact with. But I still had to figure out what I should do for them. Because, obviously marketing seems like a good idea. I've been doing that for a while now. But by then I'd really dug into the nuance of software and realised that it wasn't enough to get the lead. They needed help to convert the lead. Sales needed help. They probably needed help to get people to use the software, because if they don't use it, they don't buy it again and they don't recommend it. And then I probably needed to help people get a user or get a client to recommend it. So I found myself drifting away from marketing and more so asking people with great software to tell me where it is that they feel like they're not achieving what they thought, should be possible with the product and the business I've built. And I'm finding that I'm doing a lot of different things. So I do a bit of go-to-market, a bit of lead generation, but it's all in the service of the fact that I think they appreciate, again, that I empathise with how complicated software businesses. You have to spin so many plates to build a business in software because any minute drop. Oh my gosh, onboarding's overloaded and we're not getting enough people onto the platform fast enough and they're all backing up. Or the plate drops, all these leads are sitting there and they're not being converted to sales. Or the plate drops at the 12-month renewal point. Oh, heartbreaking. You got them onto platform, they used it, and then at the renewal point, drat. Okay, didn't make any money. Or 12 months later, didn't make any money off them. So, yeah, so it was all about kind of, I'm like the plate spinner or extraordinaire, if that's probably the best parallel. I go in and I ask people what I can do to help. And it's probably the biggest change that I stopped asking people for a job and I just started asking, hey, do you reckon I could, you sound like that's a problem. I think I have an idea on how to help it. And I'm such a software nerd that I think, oh, well, and you should probably look at this. And there's this other software and they do it like that. And there's teardowns there and there's, my head just goes, and, and so I think I'm actually doing something that adds value now most of the time, which I think's, a good, hopefully 10 out of 10. Yeah, I was going to say, that's my, you can tell I'm such a great marketer. That's my brand promise. I think I'm going to do something useful most of the time. RuluMarketing.com. Track me down. On LinkedIn, actually, much more accessible. But no, I think that's actually really satisfying, and you have to challenge yourself to constantly change and evolve. And as a consultant, you have to be, I did an audit again this year. 2020 has been a really tough year for me. I used to do a lot of work by word of mouth.
Right.
And I had done no work to scale my consultancy, which is quite ironic since I'm happy to tell software companies about how to group their feature sets into products to make it easy to sell. And I hadn't learned how to productize services or to make it easier for someone to ask me to help them. So 2020 has been a real year of learning how to repack the consultancy into a way that, and while I've been really well supported by clients, I'll change the model of the consultancy for 2021. So I think I can say, like most people, we didn't ask for 2020, but I'm going to stay grateful about the experience I've been through because it will make, particularly Rulu Marketing, a really strong company next year. And BrightCanvas popped out. We had the headspace to actually think, how could we help? How could we help entrepreneurs at a price point that they could actually get, could afford it?
Yeah, it still gets you paid something half decent as well, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
But so doing this consultancy, obviously you'd worked for other people for a long time. You've come out. I'd be interested in what you thought how it would go versus what a few things that happened that were maybe like, oh, I just never thought that was going to happen. I didn't expect that. What was it? That probably the first year I'm most interested in how you kind of adjusted.
I'm too much of a marketer. That was my problem as a consultant. I could really sell my way in, and then I had no idea there's such a thing as a scope of work, or there's an hourly rate, or there's the mechanics of how to do this. I need to figure this out. And it's a lesson I've kept on learning because, again, I do want Rulu. I've always thought the mission of Rulu is to be less about marketing as a primary and more about growth, this idea, and not in that awful kind of growth hacker, whatever, more like saying you've got a great business to grow software businesses. It's a lot of different things that help you grow those businesses sustainably, really. And I want to be able to help you with any of it. But you have to boil that down a little bit better. And the next step's the hardest thing with consultancy is to go, here's what I can do and here's what it looks like. And you should sign that off, and I can do that. And I can learn when I do that block of work that I can then take it to other people that you don't compete with, and help them as well. So I had to learn what it meant to say, I'm going to improve your renewal rate. Well, they want that too. So I wanted to be able to break that down and say, well, I'm going to help you do here and here and here. And here's all the trends that say this is the best practice. And let's put that block of work and let's not put that pressure on your team. I'm here to help them. And it probably also took me a while to realise that consulting's great when you're a balance of within the business. So you don't want to be so far away from the business that you can't really understand their day-to-day and leverage the skills, because I think it's a shame when people hire a consultant and the intelligence walks away with the consultant. As a consultant, you should be comfortable enough to teach them and give them the ability to fix the problem the next time, because you've got someone else to help. But that's the other thing I had to learn, because the first thing consultants do is keep all their cards, their magic cards of knowledge, to their chest.
Right.
And the best thing you learn is to go, well, it's not really about what I know. It's about the fact that I get stuff done. I didn't swear then, by the way, so I'm really happy with that. I can help you make it happen.
Yeah.
So they want me to know what I'm doing. They want me to be able to talk broadly about lots of software lessons that kind of help us find the best plan. And then they want me to handle all the personalities, all the suppliers, all the skill sets, all the things they don't have or have internally, and just get in there and help them to do it, and not be too much trouble when I do it. You know, drift in, make it all happen, and then just drift back up again.
Yeah, right.
Yes, until the next challenge.
Yeah, interesting. I found a similar challenges myself. I don't know if you might not appreciate this title, but I've rebranded myself a growth strategist. Oh, not a growth hacker. But I'm like the marketing. I found over time people were putting me in this box that I'm like, that's not what I think I am, and I just kept on banging my head against this ceiling. I felt like that was there. That I'm like, this is the best I can help you is when you let me in and actually, let me know about the whole business, and I understand and I can see the business model and I can see how it all works together. So I don't want to be the guy that comes in and goes, do this, walks away without any, any thought around the actual practicalities of what that's going to be like to implement, right? Yeah. So, it's the
empathy. I think people trust you if you can establish empathy, and you can't really empathise. It is actually probably the key to any good consulting relationship. And sometimes that means signing an NDA before you even have a coffee chat, which I've been made to do. And in hindsight, I probably should have put an NDA in front of a couple of coffees too, because the more someone can really tell me where it is they need the help, where they thought this business would be and what's dragging them back, the easier it is for me to go, oh yeah, mate, that's a common problem. I mean, I think what will underpin Rulu in 2021 is the fact that I hear the same problems. Growth, product-led growth, retention and churn, onboarding, stable lead generation, brand building, those same elements that in some way or another touch all SaaS businesses, and being able to say, mate, you're not alone. I know it feels like you're alone. It feels like every other guy with a high growth software is in smart company getting some funding or is on his social media, he or she is on their social media feed saving the world and selling software. But they're probably having exactly the same problem. They've probably got churn that's sitting in the red. They've probably got a cost of acquisition that would make you cry. You know, we're all in it. And as I said, it's spinning plates. And you've got to find a way, you know, as soon as you can sort of say, yeah, look, I get it. But how about I let your team just focus? How about I take one of those plates and I'll sort it out? You know, consulting's been so rewarding and continues to be. And I think that's probably why I end up with a technology startup that's mostly a consulting. It will ultimately be a technology startup. But it's ultimately, it goes back to that, you've got a great idea, let me help you.
Yeah, awesome. So while you're building this consultancy and that, how often are you thinking, I'm sick of this shit, I'm going back to work for someone else?
Oh, dear. When my accountants come knocking with BAS statements and incorporation fees, when I miss out on a deal.
Yeah.
And I know that, I could have helped these guys. This time of year when I see Christmas photos, although I've got to say we have had a great freelancer community, a little bit stifled in 2020, but we are building a great kind of consultant freelancer community here who are all kind of so supportive of each other. So next year we'll get our Freelance Fridays back up again. I do miss some aspects because as a consultant you do solve problems sometimes more than, you know, you don't get to celebrate the raises or the wins sometimes. But I just really had to build the best job. I had to build a business to employ myself so that I could work in the job that played to my strengths. And I really enjoyed.
Yeah, makes total sense. sense. So what's the moment like when you realise I've got to productise this? I've got to package this up differently. Like, what can you talk us through how that came to be?
I really can, because and I just it's the journey that's the foremost in my mind at the moment, because I was very much about I'll just solve problems and we'll do a scope of work and it'll be great. But COVID hit, and as I said, most of my work is word of mouth, referrals. So it's exceptionally hard. It was really hard to have those kind of private moments with an entrepreneur over a coffee chat and get them to tell me about what I could help them with, because there were no coffee chats, there was no networking, and a lot of businesses were retracting back within themselves. And I think it's so easy to use COVID as an excuse. For the first month, I think I was like, oh, it's just COVID. There's a whole pandemic and it's really, I mean, how could my business possibly stand up to that? And then I really put my foot down with my own self and realised that COVID's such an excuse, Louise. You'd built a business that you loved, but it was not scalable. It was, in some senses, repeatable, like people are asking for the same things all the time. But you haven't done the hard work to build a consultancy. You've been off building other people's software businesses. And now you make it really hard for people to work with you because you can't quickly articulate what solving their problem looks like. Not just, yes, I can help you solve the problem and this is my experience and this is where I think we should go, but really being able to quickly outline how long it's going to take, what it's going to take, and, you know, being able to articulate, I was a terrible marketer of a consulting company. So I went to consulting school, essentially. I listened to I've got to say, this has been a long year. I have listened to every, I mean, you have to look at my Facebook feed to see how many coaches and consultants are now retargeting me.
Yeah, okay.
But the resources that I really kind of gravitated towards were the guys from Dent Global who do the KPI program, because their theory is quite good, and they talk a lot about productizing service for scale. And B2B school, where I spend most of my time, which is really, again, just stepping back and realising I probably thought I knew it all. And in coaching and consulting, I knew nothing. So I've stepped back and realised, I need to productise or bring services together that get the result, that are repeatable and are easy to communicate and are easy to execute. And I needed to, and to, as I said, with growth, there's really only a few different really big areas of roadblocks. So why not be the person who offers? Is it a problem with churn? Is it a problem with retention? Is it a problem with lifetime value? Are you having trouble growing, getting growth out of the product? Are you having trouble with conversion rates and your cost of acquisition? How about I be the one that puts that on the table? And I think people respond to that so much more, because then it's not really about me having to pull it out of them. It's about me saying, geez, when I was in software, I can tell you the problems I had. I could, because because I'm not a consultant I wasn't consultant as a career. I wasn't a career consultant, of which there are a lot of really amazing people. I was someone who's actually been there in the trenches, and then I've just come out of the trenches and thought, yeah, man, I need to go. And what I would have done for a consultant in a few of my jobs, just to go, can I give you this problem? My team are trying to hit the number. My team are trying to build X, Y, and Z. But there's this one plate that keeps on dropping and smashing. And if I could just get someone who understands software to go and fix it, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. So, but it was a real challenge. I had to learn and listen to so many webinars, and I had to. The hardest thing I've done is probably something I've done in the last 2 months, is I had to sit down and write all the things that I do and rate them for their value.
Oh.
And that can be a really positive experience at the end, as you add up all the dollars. But there's a lot of things that you have to admit that you think are valuable, but I don't know if someone will give you $1 for it. Bit of banter, a bit of Sass, someone that knows their Sass, someone who knows their Sass from their elbow. You have to be able to put skills in front of them that people want to pay for. And that's exactly the conversations I've been having with software companies for years as a marketer. And I had to do it on myself. But once you do it, again, you realise, then I just leave all this other stuff on the table. I just focus the business on what people see value in and are willing to pay for. And that doesn't make it bad or good, but it is a little, it's a little kind of telling. You have to really reevaluate yourself and your skills. And that sort of, and build a business accordingly. So I'm much more deliberate about who I work with now, and I'm much more deliberate about the process I take to bring them on. And now I've got my first client on my new product.
Amazing.
And and they've pushed past, the first couple of stages, and now they're on to the next stage, which wasn't part of the proposal. And I'm going, this is a better business, because, because I'm not asking for people for everything. I'm just doing something for them, and we get a win, and we move on to the next thing. And those relationships are much more ongoing. So while I'm still building a consultancy that's not really a retainer-led consultancy, I'm able to still be an active part of a business for a much longer amount of time, and they feel confident to come back to me and say, oh, there's something else. Can you help us with that? Yeah, absolutely. I can help you with that. So... And that's actually, my focus has been on LinkedIn a lot in 2020. So I'm hoping, I think LinkedIn is probably the standout tool for anyone looking for a job, anyone looking to build a consultancy. And I would actually say to people who are recently out of work, moving out of a job, whether it's COVID related or just in general, to not take consulting off the table. If you begin to learn about what being consulting is, you can really get some great value. I think I've experienced people who say, oh, well, yeah, consulting's replacing a job, or consulting's not a great business. I'm like, well, actually, once you learn how to do it, which has taken me 3 years, hard work, with swings and roundabouts, it's actually a great way to make a living if you're the right fit for it. So, and there's a lot of people in certain disciplines, in high demand disciplines like engineering, like in software, in engineering, in product. Oh, what I would do to encourage people to be product consultants, to go and help people build software that someone could sell and that can grow. And I think there needs to be more marketers that help growth, help people build great software without them hiring whole teams, or just to supplement the team, allow the team to work on what they're working on, then come in and make that one change that that really affects the business. So I think someone who's looking, whether they planned it or not, at whether they're going to jump back into the job market or not, I would go back to the original statement I made, which is when I stopped asking for a job and started asking to help people, the doors that opened up were amazing. And I know that's scary when you've got a mortgage and you've got bills, but I think you can find a way to make it work. And then you'll get a chance to work with people who, will genuinely give you those great opportunities. And this may be the great opportunity for you. It's certainly a great way to while you're hours away while you're job searching, for sure. And, you might need the work when you come off a very big role and it ends abruptly. It rattles you no matter what the circumstances were. So also being a consultant is a great way of being ready for your next opportunity, because you can go out and get a win for someone, go out and help someone for a while, contract, consult, give that, understand what you're good at and put it in a way that someone could really take it and execute it in their business. And more importantly, probably go and help them as well, because knowledge is something, but execution's everything. I think I've read that on a T-shirt lately. But take the opportunity. The more lateral you think about your career and the more you stop thinking about, oh my gosh, I need a resume where every role's 5 years and I have to be X job title and whatever. I had to let go of job titles. I would have loved. I was collecting the set of marketing job titles. So you have to, there's things you let go, but I would encourage those people out there to have a think about consulting in whatever form it takes, because it's a great opportunity, whether it's in the short term or long. For me, it's the long term. Yeah, right. I'll never say never, because I'm going to have to work till I don't think we'll get the pension till we're 100, I think, our generation. So I'll still be working, so I'll never say never. But I think, like you, I'll always want to know more about the business and know I'll only ever put myself in front of people that I think I can be my best self with,
Yeah, and really help.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm interested in then, so you're doing the consultancy, but you've also decided to start another business with someone else. So
yes.
So this isn't on your own anymore as well. This is making the choice to bring a co-founder in.
Absolutely. And all those soft skills that come up with that. So Nicole and I get on really well because ironically we have very similar careers. And we met each other. Oh, so funny. It's one of the funniest origin stories other than drinking wine together, was that she got a job that I didn't get.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know her from a bar of soap. And I then met her down the track. And I'll try not to be too indiscreet, but I met her at an event and she told me where she was from. And I said, that was the best job in Brisbane in the first 6 months of the year. I am completely jealous. you must be amazing. And I'm pulling out my LinkedIn. We need to connect. Oh my gosh, you work for Sitecore. Oh my gosh, Aquila. Oh my gosh, Tech One back in. Wow, you've got an amazing resume. And we've worked for very similar companies. And we get talking and she's like, yeah. So down the track, it doesn't work out for her. And she'd come back around to me and said, yeah, well, you're off doing consulting. You seem a bit, you seem sane. How much I paint the picture of sanity. What's what's consulting like? And I said, it's actually kind of cool. But to go back to the idea of being on your own as a consultant, to building a business and understanding you're part of it, and then building a second business that's taken this is a second model that we've been through before we've realised, oh, that's it. But now, we're at RCL in the small pre-accelerator activate, and we're learning that we have to divide and conquer the roles. So I handle product and she handles marketing, and we have consensus. And I've got to say, there's nothing funnier than 2 lead generation marketers who took... BrightCanvas is probably the 150th name.
Okay.
We just sat there and went, oh my gosh, I'm glad I work for the United Nations and that she's a super patient person, because we kind of have an unspoken rule about if there's not 2 yeses, then we move on, unless you want to kind of die in the ditch on it. But particularly with the names, because I was so passionate about Rulu as a name, it's a name that's built with the names of my nieces, Ruby and Isla Louise. Isla has my name as her middle name. So I always talk about Rulu and smile. When people ask me where I'm from, I'm like, I'm from Rulu, and it makes me so happy. She said, I want that for us. I said, okay, here we go. So we were on Fiverr, pulling down, paying for people to find us names. We found this fantastic service, which probably has the best business name on the planet, Frozen Lemons.
Okay.
FrozenLemons.com, I think it is. They also look for business names for you. And all I could think about is how frozen we were. We couldn't even get a bloody domain. We didn't even have a name of this company. We'd half built the product, the service. But yeah, then we came out the other side of it, and I sat down at her place and went, you know what? I reckon if we didn't kill each other over the name, this might actually work. So now we're going through this 5-week really intense, running business of our own, running BrightCanvas, making promises and being held accountable to them. And it's actually surprising how much we can be really open with each other about, oh my gosh, I'm a kind of a bit stressed, or I've got the other business, I've got work on in the other business. Can you take the load? Or this is what I want to do. So I said, we've got to divide and conquer the responsibilities. And you'd think we both fight for the marketing job.
Neither of you wanted it.
No, I think it was for some reason it was such an interesting conversation where I said, they're talking to us about that we should, one of us should take the product and one of us should take the marketing. How does that work out for you? And she's like, mate, you're an organiser in Product Tank. Are you going to take product? I said, I'd love to take the product. Could I please take the product? She said, yeah, as long as I can keep on contributing. I'm like, absolutely. You are my 2IC and I'm yours. It was surprising how easy it was. And I think it was just that when we're a little bit older, we're now consultants. And again, we're just interested in playing to our strengths. So, but it's so much, you have to think first. You have to think first about building a business that aligns with, you have to be so open about what you're trying to achieve, that you want to achieve the same things. And you also really, you bounce off each other, you commiserate. And in these high growth businesses, you are the support, because we've gone from, a concept with a great, amazing looking logo to jumping in this program, having a V1 product, having our first client today, having a second client about to sign off, having a third client coming, and just going, hold on to your hats, kids. Like, this is going to be a bit interesting. So it's actually really nice, because when you've got your own consultancy, it can be a bit lonely, and you look for that community of coaches and consultants to help you. But having a co-founder that you kind of build a real resilience with each other, you're kind of in the trenches together. And then as long as you can have the communications with each other that says, this is not a great day for me. I need to have a day off BrightCanvas, and I need to go and resolve Rulu, and then I'm going to be back with the strength. Or just being able to say, yeah, that isn't us. Like that doesn't look like BrightCanvas to me, or that doesn't sound like BrightCanvas to me. We're building something together, which is kind of odd. Yeah, it's amazing, but it's going to be great. Well, it is great.
Yes.
It is. I've been talking about it so long as kind of this concept, and now it's got clients. And I think it's such an interesting concept that could scale, but rather than build technology first, I really wanted to have people run through the program. I really wanted to see entrepreneurs become their own marketer, not just have as a tagline. I want to see how it happens, and I want to hear the questions.
Yeah.
Then I can talk about how to scale it. Which means that, there's some pain points to that. But yeah, I think when it scales, we won't be figuring out who we are after about $250,000 worth of technology built. We will build technology when we know who we are and what we're trying to achieve.
Sure.
Yes.
Makes total sense. Yeah, no, interesting. Because I've got a business partner now as well that and I went in that direction too after being on my own for a long time, and it's a lot better, I think, as long as you get the right person. But just to share the journey with almost, and the highs and lows, you're both going through it together. And if you can have that open communication, which is amazing, I think.
Yeah, I think it makes you better. Well, it certainly allows you to be challenged, because in your own consultancy, some of the problems I created for myself was me not challenging me. The great thing about having a co-founder is that you do kind of challenge those assumptions and go, yeah, can it really happen like that, Louise? And I go, what do you mean it can? Fair call. All right, we'll adjust this, or we'll set our expectations here and work upwards. But yeah, the benefits you get from a co-founder, I think, are many, and that includes learning how to deal with someone, learning how to negotiate, learning how to leave something. It's a relationship, like any other relationship outside of work, but you're trying to build something together, and you've got to make sure that they're allowed to build their vision in the same way that you're trying to build your vision, and hopefully those things are the same. Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, we might wrap it up, Louise, because this has been incredible. It's awesome to hear about your story, and all the way from London to back to Brisbane again.
And back again in Brisbane. With a few stops in a few other countries in between, yes.
But where can people find you if they want to come and scope you out, send you a message, send you an email? Like, what's best?
Louise Flynn on LinkedIn.
Sure.
That's absolutely the best place to find me. It's the email, it's the inbox I check the most.
Sure.
I live in LinkedIn at the moment, so find me on LinkedIn. Obviously, we have brightcanvas.co or rulumarketing.com, but as I said, the best place and look, I'm really happy to talk to people about marketing, because 90% of the questions that I get are really just looking for someone to independently validate that they don't have to do something, or that they should do something. So one of the things I would say is, ping me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to have a quick chat and say, yeah, no, you don't need to do that. Or you can do that in 6 months' time, off you go. And, you know, I'm interested to watch how you go. And look, if Rulu or BrightCanvas can help them, even better. But if not, at least I could answer a question that takes that off their list. So always happy to talk about software.
Awesome.
Always happy to talk about Sass, as you can tell.
Well, it's been awesome, Louise. Thank you very much for coming along.
Thanks for having me.
Really
I'm so honoured.
Oh, you've been great. So thanks for sharing all that with us. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast and clicking on the relevant episode link. Remember to subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.